As you guys saw, a few weeks ago we got the paint on our hull. It felt incredible and was a huge step forward, but it was also a reality check for how much work we still have to do. Because this huge step that felt like it should be the end was really only the beginning of a bunch of work to get back in the water. I'm Taryn, this is Logan, and this is Max. Our life rarely goes as planned, and this story is no different. But we are determined to rebuild our beautiful steel boat, even stronger than she was before. And we're bringing you along with us. Let's go inside. So as you can see, the engine is still out of the boat. We have to still do spray foam in there. Also there, the aft cabin needs to be spray foamed. Okay, so walking forward, we actually have a ton of work to do. So you can see this is the water tanks all painted up. There's a pipe down there. Crap, my phone fell out of my pocket. There is a pipe down there in the corner. That's where the water comes out of. It needs to be repainted, and we've got to clean it out to do that. Then all of these bilges that you can see that are open, they all have rusty spots in them that need to be cleaned. So they've got to be chipped and then cleaned up and repainted. In here, there's a bunch of spots right up against there that need to be repainted. You can see them. Oop. All the spots missing in the paint because the welding burnt the paint off. And there's a few spots down in here. And then, once all of that is done, can't really see in the head very well here, but this compartment here has to be all torn out because, well, not all torn out, sorry, the bottom needs to be torn out, it needs to be cleaned out because there's a big rusty spot under there that we're hoping doesn't mean we have to replace plate, but it might. And all of this in here, sorry for how dark it is, needs to be torn out and replaced. Okay, and moving forward, we've got a couple of spots in there that need to be dealt with. And then all of this needs to be rebuilt. This table over here, so dark, sorry guys. That is being torn out, and we're going to put a hanging locker in there, and we're going to extend the bed. Yeah, so all that woodworking. Putting all these cabinets back together. There's a lot. Hold on, let me get a light. And then, back here in this area, we have to put this all back together, and we're going to redesign it so that we can actually have 4 bikes on board because bikes are important to us. We got to put that wall back in between the 2 compartments because that's like an aft storage locker. So you guys saw we tore that out, and that's where we found all that rust. And the 2 hatches that go in there, let's go look at those. So these 2 hatches here, there's a bunch of spots like there that need to be repainted. It looks like it's been painted. I mean, technically it has been painted. But there's a bunch of little rust spots along here that need to be dealt with. The propane locker, which is under that hatch there, is really bad. So yeah, there's just a ton of small jobs and some not so small jobs that might turn into bigger jobs that need to be done. So it's a good thing we didn't put ourselves back in the water and rush to get back in the water, although we kind of rushed to get the sandblasting done, and that's why some of these jobs didn't get done before. And then there's a few spots on the cabin top actually. One of the port lights over here needs to be rebedded. I don't know if we'll even get to that this winter. We've got to check where the mast sits there, where the fire extinguisher is. We've got to take that off and check underneath it to make sure it's not super rusty. So yeah, just lots to do still. So on top of all of that stuff inside and the painting on the deck, we also need to put on all the stuff for sailing again. So we've got to put on the winches again, we've got to put on all the tracks. We've got to get everything ready for the mast to go back up. So there is just a ton, absolute ton of small projects that need to get done. And shifting from pushing so hard to get the paint on doing all those small jobs is proving to be harder mentally than we had expected or hoped for. So hopefully that explains to you kind of why we're taking that extra 6 months to be on the hard, on top of the fact that it's winter and it's cold and it's kind of lame to be on the water when it's like this, especially when we don't have anywhere to put the boat. It's so hard to find moorage around here, it's insane. So it just makes more sense to stay on land and get as much done as we can while we're in this shed, and then worry about getting back into the water when we can actually cruise and enjoy ourselves. So remember how we painted the whole outside of the boat? While Logan was doing the outside of the boat and the decks, he also tried to spray the chain locker, and he sprayed it partially with a coat of primer, which is what we've been painting in the inside of the chain locker beforehand. We've got 3 coats of primer in there right now. But because of just the angle of the paint gun and stuff, you couldn't get in there all the way. So today I'm going in there and I'm actually gonna paint on some of the top coat. So we're gonna do 2 coats of top coat in there, I think, just because they're harder than the primer is. And we're gonna coat the entire chain locker in it. And hopefully then that'll be enough coats to keep rust out of there for a while. I'm really not looking forward to it. I'm really done with being in that tiny space, and it sounds like there's at least twice more that I'm going to be in there. Logan's working as a heavy-duty mechanic, paying for the paint that's got to go on the boat, and I'm doing the annoying job of actually putting that paint on. It's not very warm outside today, and the humidity's still pretty high because it's been raining, so I've got to get a heater in there and cover the chain locker, let it heat for a bit, then I'll get to painting. So I guess let's get at it. All right, let's go see if it's warm enough up top. 27% humidity and 85 degrees. Oh, yeah. I'd say that's good enough. All the metal feels pretty warm, so yeah, we should be pretty good. These 2 paints can't be applied with humidity above 85% or temperatures below 10 degrees, so getting that locker warm enough was very important. So today, I'm going to blast a couple of things. You see this guy? And this guy? These are part of the engine mounting system, and they're rusty. So this guy, both of them I guess, are rusty because it had salt water dripping directly on it from the heat exchanger. It only dripped on 1 of the 4 because of where the water was coming out, so I just have 1 to clean up. The rest of them look fine. There's 4 mounts. And 3 out of the 4 look fine, but this one is a bit rusty. So we're gonna tape these threads off, and then we're going to blast everything. And then I'm gonna paint it with the top coat that we use. The reason that I'm doing that, instead of using like the epoxy primer that we have, which is pretty much the 2 paints that we've used for everything, and almost everything inside the boat that we've painted is epoxy primered and not top coated. But the top coat is a lot harder, and it stays a lot cleaner. So it should work pretty well for this. The nice thing about that top coat as well is that it's made to go directly on steel. So I think this should be fine with just a couple of coats of the top coat, hopefully. And Logan is going to rebuild a come-along today while I'm doing that, so that we can hopefully soon put the engine back in the boat, which is huge and will make doing everything else inside so much easier. So let's get working. Whew. All right. So there they are, all cleaned up. So now I'm gonna have to mix some paint and get these guys. They'll be so nice and white soon. Ooh, pretty. It turns out these 2-part polyurethane paints eat styrofoam, so definitely don't use it like I did. Use cardboard or something to rest the metal on if you need to instead. Well, the chain locker is officially done. It's the last coat of paint in there, which is super exciting. I put 1 coat on those other things. They're gonna need probably 2 more coats. Definitely 1 more. You can definitely see through them a little bit. But that's the chain locker done. So there's either 4 or 5 coats on everything. And by either 4 or 5, I mean Logan sprayed 1 coat of primer in there, but just couldn't get in everywhere because of the angle of the gun. So everywhere has been painted at least that many times. So at least 4 times, and some places have been painted 5. So that's not too bad. That should be enough for a while. The chain's not gonna sit directly on the paint either. We're gonna put like some kind of matting or something in there so that the chain doesn't score everything up and rust things out faster. But yeah, that should be decent. So that's awesome. Feels awesome to have that done and to know that I don't have to be shoved. This might be the last time I have to be shoved in that hole for this entire project. That is so exciting. That hole is the worst. Oh, it's so squishy in there and so uncomfortable. I just want to scream sometimes when I'm in there. Sometimes I do, let's be honest. But anyway, the point is, I don't have to be in that hole anymore, I don't think. Maybe for small periods of time, but not for long periods of time. Not for an hour. That's so exciting. Okay, yes, awesome. Awesome. That makes it even better that the paint is done. Thanks so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and commenting. We appreciate all of you. And an extra big shout out to our patrons for the extra help along the way. See you next week.